So, the following podcast is an interview with Mark, who is a Spurs supporter. Mark is a frequent guest of the Tres Ways One Goal supporter series, where we interview fans about their respective clubs. In this podcast, we talk about the Champions League and his feelings about the final and what's next for Spurs. So sit tight, or whatever you're doing, and enjoy the pod.
How are you feeling?
Oh, there have been better days, but we'll survive.
So, where do you want to start, Mark? Do you want to start with your thoughts before the game?
That's a good place to start, I think. So, optimistic, I think, was the primary emotion I was feeling before the game. I don't know. What direction do you want to go in here?
So, the lineup. What did you think about the lineup initially? When you first saw it, you were like...
Not too many surprises. Obviously, I think the big miss was Lucas Moura. I think that's kind of been the story. Him missing out on a starting place and not even being able to come off the bench. But I mean, I don't know that there's a team in the world that doesn't start a healthy Harry Kane if at all possible. So it's hard to blame Poch for that. Kane is such a weapon, such a leader of that team, especially, and in many ways, although he's supremely talented, it's his that transcendent leadership quality that I think means even more to the team. So it's hard to not put him in a starting lineup. But that being said, obviously having been out for weeks and months following yet another injury, maybe he wasn't as sharp as you would have liked in a European final. But I think that's probably the biggest shock, or maybe at least the biggest storyline surrounding Tottenham's lineup. Otherwise they lined up about how we would have expected. 4-2-3-1. Obviously, you've got a lot of talent, but that lineup has been pretty consistent all season in all competitions, as long as they've all been healthy.
After they scored the first penalty, what were your thoughts? Like, how are we going to score? Can we hold Liverpool off? What were you thinking?
Oh, well, I'll be honest. I was a little bit like, oh no, here we go. I'd say I was optimistic before the game. I was as optimistic as a Spurs fan can be. Man, Liverpool are such a good team. They're honestly, I don't think there's a team in Europe that I would have, or that would have been more difficult to play than Liverpool. Liverpool were in great form. They're obviously supremely talented. Last season it's much the same team, except for the addition of Alisson in goal. But now that the scoring responsibility isn't solely on Salah's shoulders, Mane had picked up. He I think doubled his goal scoring tally from last season. That team is just it's incredible. So as soon as that goal went in, I thought, oh well, this could get ugly, and it could get ugly really quick. The penalty itself, I know there was quite a bit of controversy surrounding it. Is it a penalty? Is it not a penalty? I think it's a tough call. It's one of those where you don't envy the ref in that position. Moussa Sissoko's arm is definitely in an unnatural position. The way they've written the handball rules, and it's getting set to change. I think it's a handball. I think it could have easily have not been. It's one of those situations where if you're the referee, his arm is in such an unnatural position. He's not making an attempt at the ball. He really doesn't have any control over the fact that the ball hits kind of his chest and then onto his arm. But there's no reason for his arm to be out there. I don't think he was trying to gain any sort of advantage from it, but I think he was directing the players behind him, kind of signaling. So that being said, I mean, your arm should never be, especially in the box, should never be extended like that and away from your body if at all possible. So I think the penalty's fair. It's harsh. It's tough. 23 seconds into the biggest game of the year, you give away a penalty like that. That's a tough mountain to climb, and then especially when Salah scores it, you're 1-0 down. You're not even 30 seconds in the game, and it's just like, okay, well, this could get really ugly. So after the first goal goes in, I'm sitting there thinking, oh gosh, I mean, this could be. I mean, you wonder how are they going to respond? Is this going to be like a galvanizing thing? Are they going to rally and say, okay, now back against the wall, let's go after this, Man City, Ajax style, come from behind, never say die, or are we just going to crumble? And we didn't. We didn't crumble. We actually played, I thought, somewhat well for most of the rest of the first half. I mean, we edged them on possession throughout the game. We had a couple of opportunities. They weren't. I mean, I wouldn't say there was any spectacular misses, any real game-changing opportunities. But when you're playing a team like Liverpool, we played about as well as we could after going 1-0 down, because it would have been really easy to concede again, to lose heart, to kind of just get deflated in that moment. So I think my emotions were, oh gosh, let's not screw this up. Let's not go down at 2-0 or 3-0 within the first 15 minutes and then just make the whole rest of this game absolutely unbearable. And luckily, I think the players responded well.
Yeah. So, going into halftime, if you were Poch, what do you think the changes you would have made? That's
tough. I'm not sure I would have made. I'm not sure I really would have made any changes. 1-0 down again. The only real mistake you make costs you the goal. And it's not, again, it wasn't like it was a tactical thing. It wasn't a blown assignment. It wasn't, back line gets caught out or something like that. It was a freak thing. Sissoko's arm just being that far away from his body. So I think Poch's plan coming in to the game would have been soak up pressure, try and hold possession for as much of that first half as you can, let the emotions settle, because what I think at least as far as I was feeling about the game was, I kind of thought Liverpool, even though they haven't done it as much this season, last year Liverpool were a feast or famine kind of team. They spent 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes of a game just absolutely dominating people and scoring 3, 4, 5 goals in a bunch. And then for the rest of the game, some of that intensity would drop off. And you could see that in some of their Champions League run last year. You saw that actually in the final last year. After Salah goes off, towards the end of that second half, or towards the middle of that second half, they start to rally. And then all of a sudden, Bale comes on and acts like he, did in 2013. And it kills the game. But my expectation for this final was that Liverpool were going to come at it in a very similar way. They were just going to come out of the gates, all guns blazing for the first 15 or 20 minutes and try and nick an early goal or two and just put the game to bed. Now they did that, but it wasn't necessarily because for that reason. So if I'm Poch at halftime, I'm saying to the guys, listen, a freak accident. It's a nothing you can do about that. As far as we're concerned, it's 0-0 in this second half. All we need is to get a goal back, and everything's to play for. So I'm not sure I make any changes right then. I do think my message to the team at halftime would have been, let's sit off a little bit more and try and catch them on the break. Kind of bait Liverpool in, which is a dangerous strategy. But with Van Dijk sitting back there, with them playing any sort of like defensive game, which, for parts of that late first half and early second half they kind of did, you're just not going to have much luck trying. I mean, you saw it the entire second half. I mean, our attack basically became get someone marginally open on the edge of the box and let them have a shot. And once or twice we come close, but, I mean, those are low percentage shots regardless. So I think my advice would have been sit off, let them have some possession, and look for an opportunity to press quickly and counter. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think that comes with its own dangers, but I think that would have been my advice.
Do you think any of the players let you down or had a disappointing final, or do you even think Poch let you guys down?
No, I mean, like I said, Kane, he was a shell of the player we know he is, and it's tough to have expected him to come in and just light up a game like this after coming back from injury. But you just can't drop him, because he is capable of, like, getting a half a yard of space and ripping a low corner shot into the right or left, and all of a sudden you're back in the game. And he just brings that to you. And then, like I said, he's an emotional leader on the team. So I think his performance was lacking, but it's hard to blame him for it. I mean, as a Spurs fan, it's tough for me to find any sort of fault with Mauricio Pochettino. But I think one of the subs you have to make, you have to bring Lucas Moura on. You have to give yourself a chance to have some sort of magic happens. Because, I mean, until the 83rd minute, I mean, we're there. It's just literally one goal away. And I think you kind of have to just go for it. In a game like this, I think being any sort of cautious, all that has gone out the window, by the 75th minute or so. I mean, you have to push, and I think Lucas Moura changes the game in that regard. So other than that, I mean, Hugo made a couple of good saves. He got close to the penalty. The back line did, I think, an incredible job of reining in that attacking three for most of the game. Fell asleep a little bit on that late corner. Ball bounces around a little bit. Origi's able to steer home. But, I mean, I don't know. I think overall we played well, not well enough to win a European final.
So where do you think the club goes from here now?
So I think the biggest thing is get Christian Eriksen and Toby Alderweireld to sign contract extensions. Get them early on in the transfer window, re-upped. That way this whole summer doesn't become, are they going to sell them? Now, I mean, maybe Daniel Levy is planning on that. Maybe he's wanting to cash in on Christian Eriksen. I don't think his stock has ever been higher. I mean, he just played in a Champions League final. He's at his prime of his career. I think unless Levy is planning on selling him and is planning on getting an absolute ton for him, then you have to sign him, and you have to sign him early to prevent this whole window from unraveling and just becoming about, are they going to sign? Are they staying? Are they leaving? The next thing is to get Mauricio Pochettino to sign an extension. I still think he is one of the best managers in the world. I think maybe outside of Klopp and maybe Zidane, he could walk into any job opening in Europe right now. I think just about any club would take him. So that means that you're going to have to try and hold on to him, because there are going to be clubs who are in for him. It's just a matter of what's the next step. I mean, I don't think Pochettino is looking to leave. I think he wants to finish something here at Tottenham. I could have seen him walk away if we had won. I think he would have been well within his right to do so. I think Tottenham fans would have been, sad to see him leave, but I think, could have let him go because he had delivered on his promise to make Tottenham a superpower in European soccer. Since we didn't, I think he gives us one more year, one full season in the new Tottenham HotSpurs Stadium, one more crack at the Champions League, one more crack at the Premier League, and then he walks away as a hero of the club. I think those are the biggest things. I think keeping this team together is the most important thing. Now, as we talked about on the last show, there are definite needs in this team that need strengthened. They need depth in this team. But I think the most important thing in this offseason is to re-up Christian Eriksen, re-up or cash in on Toby Alderweireld. But if you cash in on him, you have to find a replacement and fast. And then you have to get Mauricio Pochettino to commit to at least one more, if not two more seasons. I think that's the most important thing we can do in this offseason.
I think the last one is, how do you think this season in the club's history will be remembered in 10 years from now or 30 years from now?
Yeah, I think this season will be remembered a lot more for what wasn't done. I think that may be a bit of a pessimistic view. I think this team, this season, overachieved significantly, especially given a year of no signings, the extra, prolonged stay in Wembley, just enormous injury issues that we had down the stretch. I think we overachieved. And in the Champions League, when those opportunities come, you have to take them. What Real Madrid did under Zidane and the 3 straight Champions League wins was unprecedented. It was insane, and it has actually, I think, served to make people believe the Champions League is easier than what it is. The Champions League is a crapshoot, guys. It is as much about being lucky as it is being good. Obviously, your powerful teams, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, they're always going to be there. They're always going to be challenging. But, I mean, I don't think any one of those teams would tell you that it doesn't take luck in the Champions League to get there. I mean, just look at Spurs. I mean, this entire Champions League run. I mean, how lucky does it get? You get a Man City team, and you hold them to no goals at home. You nick a goal off them, and then you have the whole VAR confirming a scored goal, and then taking the goal away from Raheem Sterling at the end. You know, the whole Ajax thing, Lucas Moura's second half hat trick. I mean, how lucky we were. And it's not to say that we weren't talented enough to be there, but I think we overachieved. I think this season will be remembered as an overachievement, but honestly, it'll be remembered for what we didn't do, which was win the Champions League, because it's so hard to get back there. Liverpool, you know, they got back in back-to-back years. That they're kind of an exception, I suppose. They've got one of the best managers in the world. They've got some of the most talented players in the world, and even they struggled at times in this run. But not very many teams will get the chance to go to a Champions League final ever. Even fewer will have a chance to go back again. And so I think as a Tottenham fan, I'm disappointed. I'm proud of my team, but I'm disappointed because this was our chance, you know. And especially when you look back at the game, I mean, the handball shouldn't have happened. Sissoko, you know, let himself down there a little bit. You got to keep your hands down in the box. And if you erase that, you stood toe to toe with the best team in Europe for 83 minutes, and that's something. And all you needed was a goal, and you could have extended it. All you needed was to produce one more, I mean, gutty performance to get across the line, and you would have been European champions. And I think Tottenham will be competitive in the Champions League for years to come, especially if we can hold on to the core of this team. I think that there might even be another shot at it next season. But like I said, it's kind of a crapshoot. You never know. I mean, it took Tottenham this long to get to a European final. It took it took Liverpool under Klopp 2 chances to get, you know, this done, to deliver on the promise that he made. If we don't ever get back there, this will have been, I think, a disappointment. But of course, winning changes history in a lot of ways. You know, nobody looks at this Liverpool team now as failures because they lost in a European final last year. Now they see it as a potential kind of like dynasty. Like, are they going to do what Real Madrid did and go on this unprecedented run and just kind of sweep over Europe? So everything changes if we win something, and especially if we can come back next season strong in this Champions League tournament and get back to the final. But until then, at least in my eyes, it's a bit of a disappointment.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark. Anything else you need?
Hey, appreciate it. It would have been. I feel like I've been a little down, a little pessimistic. If Spurs had won, I probably would have been unbearable. But hey, congratulations to Liverpool. Thanks for having me, guys. It's always a pleasure. Enjoy the off season. May all your teams get all the players that you want, except for Arsenal.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
See you guys.